All right, world history students, going to start off the year here with chapter 1, section 1. Got a little audio recording that might help some people out, hopefully. So if you don't have a textbook, open to page 19 right now. You need to please grab a world history textbook, open it to page 19. Pause this recording and do that if you're not there yet. Once you're on page 19, we'll go ahead and review the objectives for this lesson. In this lesson, by the end of this lesson, we should be able to define archaeology, describe the scientific theory of the origins of humans, define nomad, describe the lifestyle of nomadic hunters, and finally, analyze your local environment for survival supplies. So the very first thing that I need you to do is I need you to go to your organizer and create a vocab presentation over the word archaeology. So you need to pause this audio recording and go do that on your organizer now, please. All right, now that we're back, you guys know what archaeology is. We're going to get started with the reading on page 19, Voices from the Past. In 1879, a Spanish landowner who was an amateur archaeologist took his 12-year-old daughter Maria with him to examine a cave on their farm in northern Spain. While her father busied himself digging for artifacts at the entrance of the cave, Maria wandered inside holding a lantern. She was startled by what she discovered. Ahead was a big dark hole like a doorway. Beyond it was a huge long room. I held my lantern high for a better look. Then, suddenly, I saw big red and black animals all over the ceiling. I stood amazed, looking at them. Today, the simple cave paintings made by Stone Age artists provide historians with clues to the lives of early humans. So we're going to be learning about prehistory today. And as the first paragraph is going to tell us, is that this is a time period that's a little bit murky. It's a little bit muddy. You know, if we study something like World War II, we can be pretty certain what happened. There's enough audio resources, enough video resources, people that were still, up until recently or even recently, there's still people that are alive that were involved in those events. So we can be pretty sure of what happened in World War II. The farther back you get, especially into prehistory, it just gets a little bit more muddy because there's not a lot of artifacts. A lot of the things those people used and created, they biodegraded, so they got swallowed up by the earth. So this is a little bit more murky, and what archaeologists and anthropologists do is they look at the artifacts that we have, and they, all the skeletons, all the tools, the things that we do have, and the dates that we do kind of have an idea of, and they use those to kind of create a story. So this first section is going to be the best guess at what we have of the theory of origins of humans. Now let's look at that objective. Describe the scientific theory of the origins of humans, right? So again, we're not 100% sure that this is how this went down, 100% correct. We do look at all the artifacts that we have, and they're all telling kind of a similar story, right? Help us get our theory. And the origins of humans, that's kind of the beginning. So that's what we're going to read about now on page 19. Before history. Historians rely mostly on documents or written records to create their pictures of the past. However, an account of prehistory, the period before written records, depends on the work of archaeologists and anthropologists. These scientists rely on the analysis of artifacts and human fossils to construct theories about the development of early human beings. Early stages of development. The earliest human-like creatures lived in Africa as long as 3 or 4 million years ago. Called Australopithecines, or southern apes, they flourished in eastern and southern Africa. They were the first hominids, humans and other human-like creatures that walk upright, to make simple stone tools. A second stage in early development occurred with the appearance of Homo erectus, a species that emerged around 1.5 million years ago. Homo erectus made use of larger and more varied tools. Around 250,000 years ago, a third and crucial stage in human development began with the emergence of a new species, Homo sapiens. Two distinct subgroups, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens sapiens, both developed from Homo sapiens. Neanderthals were first found in the Neander Valley in Germany. Their remains have been dated between 100,000 and 30,000 BC and have been found in Europe and Southwest Asia. Neanderthals relied on a variety of stone tools and seemed to be the first early people to bury their dead. The first anatomically modern humans, people like us, known as Homo sapiens sapiens, appeared in Africa between 150,000 and 200,000 years ago. Recent evidence indicates that they began to spread out of Africa around 100,000 years ago. So that's kind of going to get us to our first objective. Describe the scientific theory of the origins of humans. Scientists theorize that there was an evolution of species that came out of Africa after, what does it say, 4 million years? Yep, about 3 to 4 million years, we eventually get anatomically modern humans. Now, these are people who were just like us about 200,000 years ago. So on your organizer, please complete the objective. Describe the scientific theory of the origins of humans. Now, one interesting thing to note on that objective is Neanderthals. They were like kind of like a cousin type species. And there's lots of people who have Neanderthal DNA in their DNA today. So kind of interesting. There was lots of other types of people. I believe the Denzians. Let me check that out real quick. All right, it's my mistake. They're the Denisovans, and they have bones that were discovered in, 2018. I'm on our National Geographic site. In 2008, paleoanthropologists digging in a cave in southern Siberia unearthed a 40,000 years old adult tooth, and they did a genetic sequence of it, and it was a Denisovan. So there was lots of different types of people, and again, some of that DNA runs in our veins. So kind of interesting there. We're going to keep forward moving with the spread of Homo sapiens sapiens. By 30,000 BC, Homo sapiens sapiens had replaced Neanderthals, who had largely died out, possibly as a result of conflict between the two groups. The spread of these first modern humans was a slow process, but by 10,000 BC, members of the Homo sapiens sapiens subgroup of the species Homo sapiens could be found throughout the world. All humans today, whether they are Europeans, Australian, Aborigines, or Africans, belong to the same subgroup of humans. We're going to go ahead and keep reading with the hunter-gatherers of the Old Stone Age. Just as people today, Paleolithic peoples used technological innovations, including stone tools, to change their physical environment. The term Paleolithic age is used to designate the early period of human history from approximately 2.5 million years to 10,000 BC, in which humans used simple stone tools. Paleolithic is Greek for old stone, and the Paleolithic age is sometimes called the Old Stone Age. For hundreds of thousands of years, human beings lived in small communities, seeking to survive by hunting, fishing, and gathering in an often hostile environment. Over a long period of time, Paleolithic peoples learned how to create more sophisticated tools, however, how to use fire and how to adapt to and even change their physical environment. Paleolithic people were primarily nomads, people who moved from place to place, who hunted animals and gathered wild plants for survival. They also created a human culture that included sophisticated cave paintings. What I'd like you to do now is complete your third objective, define nomad. All right, now we're going to describe the lifestyle of nomadic hunters. So we're going to talk about modern humans. We're going to start back about 200,000 years ago. And those people lived in the Stone Age. They were nomadic hunter and gatherers. Like the text said, these people used stone tools, and everything that they got was from the environment. That's why they're so hard to learn about, because they didn't create anything artificial like we do, right? And these people, they were nomadic, right? Because they had to move with their rhythm of life was influenced by the seasons. It was influenced by nature and how things change in the environment around them. That isn't to say that they moved every day, right? They might stay in a place for a couple days, or they might stay for a week, or for a couple months, or even a couple years before the food finally gave out. It really depended a lot on where they were. All right. For example, on the northwest coast of the United States, there were Native Americans up there living in the Stone Age, right? That lived in one place. They were sedentary. They lived in one spot, built homes to stay there, and they lived there for years and years and years because their geography or their local environment was so abundant they could do that. Now other places, they dig all the roots. They would gather all the seeds. They'd kill all the animals, and then they needed to go on. They needed to move on. So it really depended on where they were. Their lives here in the text, it says that they were living in an often hostile environment. That's definitely true. That Mother Nature could be unforgiving. We see that all over the place. And, there was probably lots of accidents and things of that nature that these people had to deal with. One thing don't fall into the trap, though, of thinking that these people always lived on the razor's edge of survival and we're starving, we're one day away from starvation all the time. It's not the case. You can see it in modern hunter-gatherers that still live today. You can see it with people who do living history experiments. These people had a lot of free time. They were really healthy, too. We're going to talk more about that in tomorrow's lesson, but these people were really healthy. They ate a wide variety of foods. They got a lot of exercise, right? They lived in small communities. And for a long, long, long time, that's how people lived, right? And so that's probably particularly interesting for us to know today, again, because we're the same people that they were. We just wear different clothes and we live in different houses, So these nomadic people, pretty cool if you think about it. You could give these folks a sharp rock, and then they could go live the rest of their lives. And they had the potential to be able to do that. So they knew a lot, right? And that's one thing that's important to understand is that they had the chance of being as intelligent as you or I, okay? Because there's all different levels of intelligence, right? We take any in this class or in our school, right? There's different levels of intelligence. It's just easier for some people to learn than others, right? And learn different things differently, right? So we're all over the place with that stuff. And then there's education, and education is what you learn. We learn about reading, we learn about writing, we learn about math, and all the tech skills and things that we know, right? Those are the important things to know for the world that we live in. People back in these days, they could be very intelligent. They had a completely different education than you have and you and I have. They knew plants, they knew animals, they knew tracking, they knew how to flint knap, they knew survival, they knew fire making. Those were the things that they learned. That was their education. And it was just very different. It took them to a very different place. And it was what was important for them to know. So we have a tendency in our modern world to think that these old Stone Age people were somehow not as smart as we are. Well, they had the ability, or they had the potential to be as intelligent as our most intelligent people. They just would have had a completely different education than we get. So if you want to take a second here, go ahead and pause this recording and take a minute to describe the lifestyle of nomadic hunters. All right. Well, before we kind of close here, I want to talk about something real quick. So let's go ahead and open right now that link on your organizer that says the Lascaux Caves. I want you to just open that link, and then it's going to take you to, well, maybe I'll just go ahead and put a picture. And I'll tell you what, I'm doing this on the fly. I'm just going to put a picture in. Let's look at that picture real quick.